When I see Jesus Christ, I simply want to be what He wants me to be. A wish is more definite than a want, which is inarticulate, something I am conscious of, and that is all. Contact with a personality will always harden our wishing into a clear initiative along certain lines. For example, when a boy sees a soldier, he wishes to be a soldier. When he sees an engineer, he wishes to be an engineer, and so on. We have to select the domain of our wishes. At a time of religious awakening, when Jesus Christ is in the ascendant and I come into close contact with Him, I wish to be a Christian. I have never known conviction of sin, never seen the need for the removal of the wrong disposition and identification with Jesus, but I wish to be like Him. The wish, too, simply sees the end of the desire and takes no account of the means to that end. Our wishes move in various domains. We cannot hold ourselves in a handful, for we are never sure what is going to happen in the domain of our wishes. We have all our wishes in a certain domain and be perfectly mastered of them, with everything clear and simple. Then a bereavement comes, and instantly the domain of our wishing is completely altered. We are suddenly put into a sensitive sympathy with things we never thought about before. When Jesus Christ is in the ascendant, the wish moves in the domain in which He lives. The sensitiveness of our wishing answers to Him in a general softening of our whole nature. We are not conscious of wishing to possess any particular virtue, of wishing to be this or that. We simply wish to be a perfect sympathy with Him and His purposes. The only point of rest is for man to have his sympathies sensitized by Jesus Christ, because the basis of our nature is always open to let us into some unsuspected hell until we have been dominated by our Lord. When our Lord speaks of discipleship, He separates our other loves and says that our love to Him must be the dominant love of all. As in Luke chapter 14 verse 26, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple." Because of any other love may be a trapdoor to something entirely removed from God's purposes. Abstract principles have no more power to lift a man than a man has to lift himself. But any man, no matter how sunk in sin, will answer to Jesus Christ when he is presented. To tell a man he is down and out, to get him up and do the right thing, can never help him. But when once Jesus Christ is presented to him, there is a reflected wish to be what Jesus wants him to be. It is appalling how many books and sermons there are today that simply present abstract truth. Jesus Christ appeals to the highest and the lowest, to the rich young ruler type of man, and to the man whom no ethics or moral principles can touch. Always keep Jesus Christ in the front. He says Himself He is to be there. As Jesus said in John chapter 12 verse 32, "And I, when I am lifted up from earth, will draw all people to myself." The wish ought to be followed by immediate obedience. I must take the wish and translate it into resolution and then into action. If I don't, the wish will translate itself into a corrupting power in my life instead of a redeeming power. The principle holds good in the matter of emotions. A sentimentalist is one who delights to have high and devout emotions stirred whilst reading in an armchair or in a prayer meeting, but he never translates his emotions into action. Consequently, a sentimentalist is always callous, self-centered, and selfish, because the emotion he likes to have stirred do not cost him anything. And when he comes across the same things in the domain where things are real and not sentimental, the revenge comes along the line of selfishness and meanness, which is always the aftermath of an unfulfilled emotion. The higher the emotion, the purer the desire. The viler is the revenge in the moral character, unless the emotion is worked out on its right level. It is better never to have seen the light, better never to wish to be what you are not, than to have the desire awakened and never to have resolved it into action. Always do something along the line of the emotion that has been stirred. If you do not, it will corrupt that which was good before. The curbing of the outward action revenges itself in a meaner disposition on the inside, and the higher the religious emotion, the more appalling is the reaction unless it is worked out on its own level. There are those whose language and habits are coarse, yet they are not vile in their inner disposition, and suddenly they manifest graces and beauties of character that amaze you. They answer to the call given by Jesus Christ, while others of the Pharisee type do not answer. As Jesus Christ said, it was impossible for the man who is self-centered in his particular impression of himself to believe in him. As written in John chapter 5 verse 44, how can you believe when you receive glory from one another and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God?